Hello, everyone. I'm Contessa of WrestleZone.com, here to talk all about WWE Extreme Rules, or as the show might lead you to believe, WWE Regular Rules, there being only one Extreme Rules match here tonight. Definitely a good show. I liked it a lot, but wow, that was definitely a wacky ending for sure. We'll talk all about it here. Yes, I am flying solo tonight. John Clark is at the show in person. He's usually my co-host here on Raw and NXT. Otherwise, we are all otherwise indisposed, so I'm here solo, but hopefully you all don't mind, and we'll be able to have your comments here. Feel the show. Before I get started, just want to remind you all of this show, given we do hear WrestleZone is available on any number of streaming platforms, whether it's SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be, we've got you covered. So I have thoughts. So I'm just going to start here with the main event, where we had Roman Reigns facing Finn Balor for the Universal Championship. The Demon Balor, if you will. Yes, definitely an important distinction there. Where Reigns had defeated Finn Balor a couple weeks ago, and then we obviously had the Demon return, and you could have probably expected that would set up some shenanigans. I don't think anybody should have been surprised whether that was the Usos interfering. Anybody could have seen that coming. A little interesting that the Street Profits did not make the save, kind of keep that feud going. That definitely would have made some sense to me, given we saw them face off earlier in the night, and I wouldn't be all that surprised to see a rematch there, but nobody went out there to help the Demon. It was all by himself, and as it turned out, he didn't need help, at least so it seemed, because no matter what Roman Reigns threw at him, the Demon just kept coming, just kept fighting, and he was very, very, very close to pulling off the victory here. This was probably the most vulnerable that Roman Reigns has looked in recent months, and that's even considering his match with John Cena at SummerSlam. I think Balor came even closer to winning this match than John Cena did. Well, just saying something. That's a good mark for the Demon Balor here. But yes, in the end, Roman Reigns won. And the finish, this is going to be a divisive one. I have thoughts. I can see Gavin Coombs saying, wow, great finish. I'm going to assume he's being serious, and I think there's something to be said for doing the unexpected here, where this was unusual, off the wall, if you will. I'm trying to be positive, but yeah, Stephen Kreitzer asking what happened. So in the end here, this was I tweeted about it. This was very comparable to some of the stuff we saw with the Fiend, Bray Wyatt back in the day, like the most off the wall kind of crazy stuff. So basically, Roman speared the Demon through the barricade. The sound of the Demon's heartbeat went through the arena. The lights turned red, very much like the Fiend, and the Balor kind of like twitched on the ground twice, and then his theme started playing. This was like a video game in a way, where his theme played. He got back to his feet. He drop kicked Roman through a table. It got him back in the ring. And there was like fog and mist in the ring. You couldn't even really see what was happening. And it was going for the coup de grace finishing move, seemingly to pick up the win there. And then the rope snapped, and I kid you not, my first thought was like, did Brock Lesnar come to the ring and like manually snap the rope in half to set something up there? But no, they went with just the ring broke on its own somehow, or we don't know exactly like how it happened, but the fact is the ring somehow broke. So Balor tumbled off the top rope there, so thus ending his brief fire up segment. The theme stopped, the lights turned back on. And then Roman speared him for the win. Yeah, this was something else. Gavin Coombs, again, trying to be positive here, saying he liked the finish. It was creative. It gave Reigns the win, gave Balor a good run moving forward. And I'll add on that this kept Balor looking strong, because this was definitely wacky. Stephen Kreitzer saying it was one of the strangest things I've ever seen, and I would agree. We have seen some crazy stuff in WWE history. Again, my favorite reference, at least in recent years, is The Fiend. We've seen some really wacky stuff. Alexa Bliss carrying on that legacy. We've seen some wacky stuff there, with supernatural things, cinematic things, unnatural things, if you will. Getting some comments predicting that Paul Heyman cut the rope. Maybe. I think that's fair. Southland saying that Heyman broke the rope, Yeager Davis agreeing Paul probably cut the rope, no one was looking. It was definitely hard to see. Like I said, there was fog and mist, and the lights are red, and you can never see anything when the lights are red anyway. DJ Cassier saying, worst show ever. He's not buying the idea that the ring, quote unquote, just broke. I mean, I would think there's something else here. I think the idea of Heyman cutting the rope would make sense, because otherwise that would be pretty ridiculous to say, okay, the ring broke in our main event. That'd be a little silly. And so also saying it was Dan Usos. Yeah, I mean, like I said, to start off here, I was a little surprised that we didn't see the Street Profits, or even, I mean, SmackDown is a little light on face teams otherwise, you know, and the Mysterios are kind of doing their own like dissension thing over on their end. So sending out the Street Profits would make some sense. Although I guess there is some differentiation between the Balor and Balor and Demon here, where like they might be friends with Finn Balor, but not the Demon. I don't know. I'm trying to rationalize it. I do want to point out Eddie Zahar here saying, and I missed this live, but I'm seeing it on Twitter here. So Roman and Finn brawled through the crowd, or Demon, they brawled through the crowd at one point, and Roman put his mask on because they're brawling through the crowd. And I want to tip my cap to that. Like that's great. Like that's very, very good. You really, to me, not again, I never want to get too into the weeds here, but it's a very good thing, to see people being safe and being, very, very cautious here, where you want to brawl into the crowd, you want to have, those cool spots like that. But, like I thought that was a nice touch there. Dennis Byrne and Bolin saying it was a good match. I would agree. It was, even before the ending, it was a little goofy where, it was pretty early in the match. Roman Reigns brought out a kendo stick, and Demon Balor brings out this like bundle of kendo sticks, and it's got like red and black like tape on it or something that's clear like demonized kendo sticks. I mean, it's goofy stuff. It's fun, and like again, we got some comments trying to be positive about the ending. I'm trying to be positive, but it was pretty goofy. And it's a shame. It is a shame to me that I think this ending will be definitely by and large criticized. Just in terms of that it was goofy, that it was a little silly, because this was a very good pay-per-view. But literally all day today, before the show went on air, I thought, wow, this feels like a throwaway pay-per-view. I'm not really feeling it. I don't really know. And this is largely been the case. It definitely was throughout the pandemic era, maybe a little more, maybe, or say a little less since the live fans have returned, where pretty much every show of the pandemic era, the TV wasn't great, and then the shows would always over-deliver. And here going into this show here, I kind of felt similar way where like, okay, I wasn't hyped up going into it. And then we had a thrown together match to open the show. We'll talk about that later. That was a very good match to open the show. Then we had the SmackDown title match. That was very good. I really liked Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. I'm going to talk all about that. Don't you worry. We're already getting some comments from Saul Sultan about that. Or sorry, not that one, Saul. I get some comments otherwise from Hermit Akar about Alexa Bliss losing. And then we had just pretty much every match delivered. And this really was a good show. But then the end, definitely the wheels kind of fell off. And like I said, we got some comments trying to be, the match was good. So people trying to be positive about the ending. And like I said, I'm trying to be positive and I can see what they're going for. But yeah, I think kind of the takeaway here will be that, this ending definitely was kind of wacky and goofy. Not to keep using the same words, but those are the only ones that come to mind. Like it was pretty goofy. We're getting some comments worried about Finn Balor's knee and I saw several tweets on Twitter, to be redundant, but saying that when you have the rope break when someone's on the top rope, that's very, very dangerous, where it can look like they tweak their knee, let alone like really do some serious damage. The show just ended. I haven't heard anything yet. I'm on the air now by myself, so the odds I'll be able to see any incoming news about that specifically while I'm on the air are a little low. But if you guys see anything legit on that front, let me know in the comments there. Of course, when things kind of come to light, if there's any update on Finn Balor, if he is hurt, if he's fine, we'll have any information about that once available here at WrestleZone. Definitely getting some comments here where Mark Buckingham was saying that he was there in person. The crowd was definitely confused. I mean, yeah, I can't imagine how the people there in person felt, where the lights go down. I'm not sure just how much smoke there was, but based on what we saw on TV, it definitely looked like a lot. And Mark also thankfully pointing out that it looks like Finn walked out on his own. So that's very, very good. Because like I said, if you cut the ropes or have the ring kind of break like that, when someone's standing on the top rope, that looks very dangerous. It looked like a pretty dangerous spot there. And that would have definitely been an even worse outcome than the questionable mixed bag of a finish there. But definitely another part of the narrative here, DHKSA pointing out that only one pay-per-view, on this match, being an Extreme Rules match, was the only one with an Extreme Rules stipulation, and it's Extreme Rules. Like, that's the show, and usually you want to see Extreme Rules have some Extreme Rules matches. He says, I felt if it's just garbage. I felt like he was watching PBS tonight. I mean, again, I will say it was a very good pay-per-view. I can definitely hear that frustration about there being a lack of Extreme Rules matches. But I will say, I'll admit it right here now. I'm not going to talk about AEW, but I will say tonight I have perhaps regained or reignited my appreciation for WWE. I've been leaning really into AEW in recent weeks, although I'm here doing WWE shows. Like tonight, I really thought it was a good show. We had good matches. And there's a lot that I liked. There's a lot of stuff I liked. I didn't love the ending there. I've made that pretty clear here. Trying to be positive. We definitely getting some negative comments about the ending and the lack of things being extreme, and that is fair criticism. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that at all. But an interesting comment from Anthony Castellano here, and I kind of thought this as well, where you've got the outcome of the main event here, where the ring broke, it was kind of wacky, and then as I said, I kind of thought Brock Lesnar I thought he actually got involved. I thought he would get involved even before the show started. He did not get involved. I'm saying that's why I kind of thought. But Anthony wondering if we could see a triple threat match at Crown Jewel. I think that's a mix like that. It's like a fork in the road where I could see them holding off on actually doing Roman versus Brock in a one-on-one match until Survivor Series, and maybe that's one way to do it. And Robert and I have talked about on the SmackDown show where it's like I can't see them really wanting to kind of give that away on Crown Jewel, for lack of a better word. So if you put in Finn Balor or Demon Balor in a triple threat match there, that's one way to do it. I would more expect to see, for better or worse, in my eyes, maybe perhaps unfortunately, but I do think we actually might get Brock versus Roman at Crown Jewel because, granted, we had to sit through a whole pandemic since the last Crown Jewel show or the last Saudi Arabia show, but usually the WWE does try to give like pretty big matches and I remember 2 years ago it was, I think, Super Showdown. They framed it as a WrestleMania level event, and they really tried to like give these major matches there. So kind of with that in mind, I think a triple threat match would make sense, but at the same time, I feel like we are going to go for Roman and Brock Lesnar. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Getting some more positive feedback here from Bit Milligan saying that he enjoyed Extreme Rules. His favorite two matches were Street Profits and the Usos, as well as Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Definitely going to talk about those matches. I enjoyed them as well. But yeah, I good show. I'm going to do in a little reverse here. We're talking about the main event. It was a good show. This ending definitely not the best, not great. And Herman Dakar even going as far as say that the ending here with Finn and Roman felt like the finger poke of doom. That I don't know if I'd go that far. I think that one obviously will go down as one of the very most questionable bad choices in pro wrestling history. This was, again, wacky and odd, but again, we're trying to be a little positive and see what they're going for, while also admitting, it was not a great look. Sean Nikoff saying Bianca and Becky was his favorite match of the night. We'll talk about that as well. And hey, well, let's talk about it. All right, let's get right into it here because we have a lot to get into here. So Sean saying that Becky and Bianca was his favorite match of the night. I thought this was very good. Where obviously we had Becky Lynch returning at SummerSlam, beats Bianca in 26 seconds. Robert and I have been talking all about that on SmackDown show in recent weeks, where this heel run for Becky Lynch hasn't felt the best. It feels like that the fans are kind of adjusting it. It feels like it's not quite clicking quite yet. And it's also here we going to tonight we didn't really know, unless you've been to one of the live shows, what this 2021 Becky Lynch would look like, because we haven't seen her in a match really on SummerSlam since she left in 2020. So for me, having not been at one of those live shows, this was definitely a good chance to see Bianca and Becky both in this match here. So this was a good match. It got time. It was definitely kind of, I would say, it lived up to the hype. You got the EST and the man going, back and forth here, where Bianca is the strongest, as her nickname goes, and she really showcased that power. And I like seeing that. I thought Becky looked great. Again, this being the first match I've seen her in, but we know that she's been on the road with WWE on the tours, on their live shows, facing Bianca more often than not, whether it's in singles or tag matches. So I thought this was very good. Dennis Bernard Bolden saying Bianca had the match won, and she did. But Sasha Banks came back, and Sean Nikoff saying that was a nice surprise. So in the end, after a hard-fought match here, Sasha Banks, the boss, indeed came back. The clock struck boss time, and she cost. I can't even say that she cost Bianca the match because she wound up attacking both women. But yes, she attacked Bianca first, and the match ended with a disqualification of some capacity, whether it was a DQ or a double DQ. She attacked both women and said, "I'll see you on Friday." So I mean, this was expected, or at the very least, a logical guess or a prediction here, where reports have said that Sasha has been backstage, and we haven't seen her since before SummerSlam. She was supposed to face Bianca at SummerSlam for the title. She got pulled from the show. That set up Becky's return, excuse me. And so that kind of like, this was the natural direction here, where Bianca never got that. Banks never got that shot, excuse me. So now we've got, 3 very top stars here, to set up this top level women's feud on SmackDown. We were talking about triple threat matches a minute ago for Brock, Balor, and Lesnar here. Sorry, Brock, Balor, and Reigns. So now it feels like at some point in the not too distant future, probably going to get a triple threat match here. Maybe maybe not Crown Jewel. Maybe if they can build it up to Survivor Series, I think they could do that. I think that'd be the most logical thing here. DJ Kesse is saying big time Bex reigns supreme. I mean, I'm still not really like digging the heel Becky Lynch here. I'm warming up to it a little bit. It's still not quite hitting for me. And maybe that's just really does seem like a more of a genuine babyface to me. Not even in like a John Cena like babyface, but just I'm so used to the crowd cheering for her being positioned as a babyface. Like this heelish Becky Lynch. I don't know. I never write anything off as in like, oh, I'm not going to give it a chance, but it's not quite clicking for me. Where it's like, I don't know. But I thought this was a very good match. I think Sasha returning was definitely a big surprise or a big angle that the show needed. Like the matches were really, really good. The ending was a big angle. I'm not sure that was what they really needed there. But with this, they had this big angle coming out of the show where people can say, okay, like now we got Sasha Banks coming back to look forward to. So that's pretty cool going forward here for SmackDown. And again, it's kind of funny where, with Raw, it's like they keep, building, they keep kind of giving some of these surprises to SmackDown. It's like, okay, Becky Lynch came back. She's over on SmackDown. Brock Lesnar comes back over on SmackDown. Sasha Banks was on SmackDown anyway, but now that's another thing that kind of in SmackDown's corner. Although, obviously, worth mentioning, the draft, thankfully, we are less than a week away. The draft begins on Friday, and we got comments like, here's how I can tie it in here, folks. I got comments about how who Paul Heyman was on the phone with, because we saw him backstage talking about how this is going to be a historic draft. And really kind of hyping up a little bit. And we had questions about who was on the phone. I have to imagine it's Brock Lesnar. I don't know who else it'd be. Roman Reigns is there at the venue, so it's not Roman Reigns. Could it be a new client? Maybe. I don't want to get like too far into that. Like that, I can't imagine anything like that. That'd be interesting. If you want to really get crazy, you could think about some people that they would debut that way as the next Paul Heyman guy. But trying to stay within the realm of what we do know, I have to imagine that was Brock Lesnar. Gavin Coombs kind of agreeing here, saying that it was Brock, that Heyman will screw Reigns to Crown Jewel and get drafted to the Raw. Heyman has teased in recent weeks that Brock Lesnar will get drafted to Raw. And in some ways, like I would not be surprised, because again, as I just said a minute ago, SmackDown keeps getting all these surprises and all these like big kind of things, these buzzworthy things. And I think Brock Lesnar going to Raw would be something to kind of even the scale a little bit, and this kind of naturally sets up the next point where we saw last week. Raw definitely, at least in my eyes, I think that the general consensus seems to be they're trying to kind of like, I don't want to say pop numbers, but they're trying to help the viewership numbers where they advertise Roman Reigns and the Bloodline coming over to face the New Day. And that was a great match. And then on the same night, we got Big E versus Bobby Lashley versus Roman Reigns in an absolute pay-per-view quality main event. Loved it. It was a great match. So here, the second week in a row, ahead of time, they're advertising this big match. So during the kickoff show, they threw together a very random 6-man tag team match. It was Big E and the New Day brawling with Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, and Omos, setting up a pretty impromptu 6-man tag team match where, and to me, that happened, and I kind of like laughed. I was like, oh, all right, this definitely does feel. Again, this was the very beginning of the show. I was like, oh, this really does feel like a elevated episode of Raw, where it's like, all right, we're doing this kind of throwing together 6-man tag. Admittedly, really like New Day. I really like Bobby Lashley. I really like AJ Styles. I really like Omos. Great, everything's great. But having that last minute match thrown together, I was like, all right, that's not great. But to kick off the show, it got pretty much half an hour. Like they got time. This match was very, very good. All 6 men shined in different ways. And I saw some tweets about it, and I would agree that this match. DJ pointing out that the kickoff match was Liv versus Carmella, and yes, I'll talk about that as well. But that the kickoff show set up the match that officially kicked off the main card in the 6-man tag. So I will talk about Liv and Carmella in a minute. But definitely, a lengthy, hard-fought, heated 6-man tag to officially open the show. In the end, we had some dissension with Bobby Lashley and AJ Styles. Styles tagged in. They kind of argued. Lashley accidentally speared Styles. Kind of typical stuff there. And Big E pinned Bobby Lashley. Definitely a big twist there where, he hasn't really, he pinned him when he won the title, but in terms of like a legit match here, a tag team match, but a pin nonetheless. That's definitely a notch in Big E's belt. And some tweets were saying that this was perhaps a better way even than the triple threat match we saw last week of kind of building up Big E as a legit champion. So on the heels of that, on the heels of pinning Bobby Lashley, backstage, Bobby Lashley fired up. He said, all right, that was a tag team match. I want you one-on-one. Forget the New Day, forget all this other stuff. I want you in a singles match for the title. And then Big E responded saying, all right, you lost your mind. I'm going to help you find it. So lo and behold, we have a WWE title match tomorrow night on Raw. And they announced it's going to open the show. So on the heels of last week, where we saw the new the Bloodline Roman Reigns coming over and having two pay-per-view quality matches with New Day Bloodline and Lashley Reigns and Big E in the main event there. Now we have Big E versus Bobby Lashley to kick off the show for the title, and I think it's pretty fair to say, okay, they're really good trying to kind of draw in viewers and hope that match convinces viewers that may not necessarily watch otherwise to stay tuned in. So I think that's cool. Like, hey, John and I do the show for Raw every week, and for months and months and months, we've been saying, all right, this deal is kind of aimless, or it's just another Monday, or there's not really some big match to be excited about. And there are exceptions, right? We saw last week definitely a big exception again with those two major matches, and I think we are seeing the shift, or there really are. I hate to say trying with Raw, because I think they're always trying in some capacity. I think WWE gets too much flack sometimes where people say, oh, they're not trying. They always put on a show, so there's always some effort, obviously. But it does feel like there's a more concentrated effort of like, okay, we really want to put on a good show. We really want to draw in viewers at the very least. So the WWE title match, do I expect shenanigans? Yes. And I think that is very fair to expect. DJ Cassidy saying that he thinks that AJ Styles will cause Bobby Lashley to lose, possibly starting a Lashley and Styles feud. I would agree. I think that would be great. I thought of that tonight during this tag team match where, there was that dissension in the end. And I was like, wow, Lashley and Styles, there's something there. They're both heels, but I don't know. I think that's a pretty interesting clash around again, pardon the pun, but a clash of styles here where they're both heels, they're both pretty strong personalities, and we've seen WWE kind of lean away from firm face and heel divides here. We're going to talk about Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, so I think they could do that. I think if AJ's at ringside, or maybe they do the classic on commentary and he distracts Bobby Lashley, I think that'd be pretty darn cool. I think that'd be a cool way to kind of have Bobby Lashley pivot out of the main title picture and then off into something else here. I mean, it's AJ Styles. I think that'd be very, very good. And I'm liking this fired up, pissed off Bobby Lashley here coming out of his championship loss here. Saul Sultan maybe trying to bring me down to earth here, saying they're sorry, but WWE's not even trying. I mean, yeah. All right. I know. All right. There are times here where they put on shows that are tough to sit through. As a guy that it's my job is to sit through Raw every single week. I think I can safely say that. But I always try to be positive. I try to look at the bright side here. And at the very least, I think there's sometimes they're trying to put on a show. At the very least, they're trying to put on a show. That is true. I think but I think Lashley and Styles would be very, very cool. And I think we may have seen the first seeds of that tonight. I think we'll see more of that kind of built up tomorrow here. But yes, DJ pointed out a minute ago the kickoff match was Liv Morgan versus Carmella here. And Liv Morgan has been making the rounds, doing a lot of media for this match. This was her second ever singles match on a pay-per-view. I think she defeated Natalya on the WrestleMania kickoff show. I think it was this year. Time is bizarre. My gosh, I think that was this year. may have been last year. I'm gonna think it was this year. She defeated Natalia. I think that was also a kickoff match. When they announced this match here, it was seemingly going to be on the main show, and then before the kickoff show tonight, there were only 6 announced matches. So you could have assumed they're going to add something else. And then when they shortly before the show started here, they kind of unofficially bumped Morgan versus Carmella to the kickoff. I think they may have even announced it early in the kickoff show. That's not great. I mean, it'd be cool to have 2, and they did have 2 women's matches, but the title match. It's great to have non-title women's feuds here because like you're really kind of trying to build up the depth of the division. And I hate to say it, but not everyone's going to watch the kickoff show. So like maybe it'd be better to put them on the main show. They can have more people watch them, and then more people get familiar with them, and there you go. That's how it works. I thought this was a good match. I've been pretty adamant about Liv Morgan being like a very, very talented person here on the SmackDown show. I've always kind of wanted to see her push that next level here, where we saw her kind of she had a nice run heading into Money in the Bank, and then Nikki ASH won. And in hindsight, it's like, all right, they really do much with Nikki ASH as the champion, so maybe they could have had Liv Morgan win there. I thought maybe that would have been better. But at the same time, now the fans are really behind her. She got a huge pop when she won this match here. She won against Carmella. So, with Becky Lynch as the champion there, I know that what we talked about Sasha Banks coming back, but I think that there really is a story where they can kind of build up Liv Morgan as this kind of really fan favorite, sympathetic babyface, then eventually maybe give her the title. Or if they want to play the long game, I think she could be a dark horse for the Royal I'm saying maybe not like right here today. I think she'd be a good pick for the Rumble. I'm saying if they build her up right, I think that'd be very, very good. So yes, Mark Buckingham saying that, and he was there in person. He's saying the crowd was hot for Liv and Carmella. Yeah, I mean, I will say, even on the kickoff match here, I could tell watching from on TV that the crowd was very hot for the kickoff match. And admittedly, the match just proved me wrong. But watching it here on the kickoff, I was like, wow, this is a hot crowd, and they deserve better than this because it did feel like a throwaway show. But then all the matches really, like I would say, over delivered. And then of course, with the ending to the main event being a mixed bag. But yeah, I thought this was a very hot crowd, a very fun show because of that, and the match was over delivering even. Saul Sultan saying happy birthday to Asuka, absolutely. It was also Damian Priest's birthday. We'll talk about him in a minute there. But Saul also asked what I'll be doing at the Ring of Honor show. I'll be doing that tomorrow. They definitely have a very star-studded show this week. So if you're a Ring of Honor fan, make sure to tune in for that. I usually do that around like 1:00 on Monday afternoons EST. Been a little inconsistent. We're trying to get back in the flow of that, but you can rely on that being around 1:00 in the afternoon EST tomorrow, talking about all things Ring of Honor here. But speaking of Liv Morgan here, DJ with a very good question, asking how long do I think it will be until Liv is the champion, win the Rumble first, and then at Mania? I mean, yeah, sitting here today, it is the very end of September, and we are just now kind of seeing Liv get this kind of like breakout spot where, again, she kind of got it at Money in the Bank, and then they kind of walked it back here. So I think if they kind of take their time and build it up a little bit, I think, and then, yeah, if they give her another feud, I don't know if Zelina Vega is the best shot, because again, I think before Friday, she's literally lost every match since she returned. Struggling to think of too many other heels here on SmackDown other than Becky and Sasha Banks, because it is admittedly a fairly light division there, especially on the heel side. Outside of that, and with Bayley going down, I think with the draft could open up some options there. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how that goes. But yes, I think on paper, Liv Morgan winning the Rumble and eventually maybe winning the title of WrestleMania could be a very fun story. The crowd is clearly behind her. She's very like a relatable, down to earth, like very like, just I guess relatable person, a very relatable wrestler here. DJ pointed out that Natalya and Tamina are heels. That's true. I think that she could feud with them. We've seen her feud with Natalya in the past, so I'm not sure if that'd be the best. Although we have seen, at least in some interviews, I've seen that she's been asked about teaming with Toni Storm, so I think that'd be something. Maybe a feud with them, or the two of them, and trying to build up some depth in the tie division there. So yeah, I do like the idea of Liv Morgan getting built up there, and I hope that tonight winning on the kickoff show was a way to set that up. So I mentioned Damian Priest a minute ago, but yes, we had a triple threat match here with Damian Priest defending the U.S. title against Sheamus and Jeff Hardy. This was the match where Jeff got added into the match where he defeated Sheamus on Raw. I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, he'd accepted Damian Priest, his challenge, I think 2 weeks ago, and then he defeated Sheamus again. So, thankfully, we did not get another singles match with Damian Priest and Sheamus. We've seen that several times. Adding Jeff Hardy definitely freshened up a little bit, and I thought that was a good call. I tweeted about it before the match. To me, this didn't happen. I'm saying maybe something that could have been interesting was if Jeff Hardy won, pinning Sheamus, and then that kind of would remind people that, hey, this guy can still go, and then maybe, you take the title off of him the next night, the next week, or something. You're not you're kind of staking your cart to him as the the long-term champion, but just kind of really reminding, hey, this guy is a former WWE champion, he can still go. But I will say, win or lose, Jeff Hardy definitely remind people he can still go tonight. Although, kind of on perhaps a similar vein, Saul Solensink is not pleased with what WWE is doing to Jeff Hardy. I mean, Hardy 2 weeks ago was chasing the 24/7 title on Raw, so yes, that was not good. And then I think because of the reaction to that, people not really liking that, they pretty quickly kind of pivoted and put him in the US title scene. So I like that. At least I think that was good, where yeah, like he definitely deserves better than 24/7 title scene, and now he's kind of at least back in the in a prominent spot on the mid card. I think John and I've talked about it on the Raw show. Rob and I've talked about it on the SmackDown show. Jeff Hardy definitely is up there for people that would benefit from changing brands in the draft, so moving him over to SmackDown again, I think that'd be beneficial. He had a good run over there last year. He won the IC title, so I think that'd be pretty beneficial. And so, again, the draft, less than a week away. It starts on Friday, so we can hope to see that among other beneficial moves there. I don't want to get into the weeds here, but Saul Solensink saying he should ask for his release, and I'll try and reframe that to say, I think that, maybe down the road, he could go to AEW. I obviously you could team with his brother. And Herman Carr mentioning that he imagines that some people would like that would like to see the Hardy unite in AEW and stuff like that. I don't know. I think that'd be interesting. As a nostalgic thing, it'd be fun. But that's something that could happen. Not that it will happen. I think it'd be fun. But again, I think that this is definitely a chance. I saw it going off tonight. I think it's a chance for WWE to really kind of reignite Jeff Hardy, and because he can still go. The people still love this guy. The crowd was super into him tonight. I mean, I could hear it on my TV. The crowd was super into him. This was a very hard fought match. Hardy got a couple of really good near falls. He really almost won the match at a couple different points. And then when Priest rolled up Sheamus, like the crowd was actually, it seemed like they were a little upset. They're like, wow, we really want this guy to win. And they were really kind of backing him here. So like I said, I think it'd be kind of interesting to see Hardy reinserted into, not just reinserted into the title scene because he's in the title scene here in this match, but maybe giving him a US title run, or send him over to SmackDown, have him win the IC title again. I mean, I don't know. I think there's just a lot you could do with him. As Saul said a couple minutes ago, they're definitely kind of misusing him or not doing the most that they can with him. So Mark Buckingham, our guy that was there here in person, saying Hardy got one of the largest pops in the arena. The crowd wanted Hardy to win, so glad to know that came through on the TV as it did in person there. So yeah, I think sometimes WWE does listen to the crowd there, where you see maybe they don't always plan on doing something, but then if the crowd really kind of lets it be known they want something to happen. We've seen it with Kofi Mania, Daniel Bryan, any number of things that they will go through and kind of do something just because the crowd clearly wants it. So I think this definitely was a fun match. One thing that definitely was particularly fun about it, DJ pointing out that Sheamus mimicked Hardy on the ropes. He did his classic like hand taunt. It was pretty fun there, dancing on top rope. I thought it was fun. I mean, these guys have a lot of history together. Where Sheamus feuded with Hardy last year. That was pretty a memorable feud where they feuded over Hardy's real life struggles with substance abuse. Priest defeated Sheamus and he's faced Hardy recently. So yeah, I I thought it was fun and it was a good match. I liked it. Good win for Priest. Priest definitely remains one of the guys that's like he's one of the best examples of someone that WWE is booking well, where it's like he wins matches, he looks good, he rarely gets pinned. Like it's he's one of those cases where it's like you can tell, like, all right, they kind of know what they're doing. All right, like we can't be fully down on WWE here because like they got that. John and I talked about on the Raw show a couple weeks ago. They had Omos, where they've kind of protected him and really set him up as this like big star, at least in a different way. So I thought that was good as well. Another good match here. Again, pretty much every match was a hit. I think every match was very good. And another match that I enjoyed a lot was the tag title match on the SmackDown side of things. We didn't have a Raw one tonight, but it was the Street Profits facing the Usos. So to me, I tweeted about it here on the WrestleZone feed, but there's something to be said about just like old school classic storytelling, and you can say that it's like cliche or if not tried and true, it's kind of like stereotypical. But to me, the story of the match revolved around Montez Ford, his ribs being injured after he faced Roman Reigns 2 days ago on SmackDown. I missed the show myself. I believe he got slammed through a table, but and having that be the focal point of this match, like, all right, the Usos are attacking his ribs. Ford is somewhat limited by his rib injury here, and kind of going off of that, and just kind of having the match revolve around that and doing that. It's basic, it's classic. We've seen it so many times, but it works. It's like a comfort food. It was pretty. It's I don't know. It works for me. Mark Buckingham with a cool comment saying he sat next to Montez Ford's mom and she was fun and rowdy. That's pretty darn cool, man. Like, I mean, you usually get some that the families attend the shows, but to get someone actually like sitting next to that family member, that's pretty darn cool. I'm glad you got that experience. This was a very good match. We've seen the Usos and the Street Profits face off a couple times. I think they faced off like a couple months ago. Then they've been feuding kind of recently here, and the Usos retained against the Profits a couple weeks ago. I'm not quite sure exactly when, but it's a match we've seen before, but it's a match that always delivers, and this was no exception. And again, the storytelling here was basic. It worked. Selling the ribs, Montez, and there was one point, and you could really see that the ribs pretty much directly cost Montez the match, where he dove out of the ring onto both Usos. He was kind of fired up on the momentum, and he came this close to winning the match. He hit, I believe it was Jay with his amazing frog splash, but of course the impact of the splash there hurt his ribs, logically, and then he took just long enough to go for the pinfall that I believe Jimmy had enough time to get in the ring, break up the pin, and then from there the Usos hit the double splash and they won. It's basic, it's classic, it works, it was good to punctuate a very good match there. So no complaints here. Montez Ford looks great coming off of a main event match with Roman Reigns on SmackDown. He is going places. I think he's great. I think he's great as a singles guy. The Street Profits are great. Everything's great. Like it's all good. I thought this was very, very good. We had the kickoff match, then we had that 6-man tag, and this was the second match of the show. So at this point in the show, we're feeling very, very good. Like we've got 2 very good matches to kick off the show here. And Dennis Bernard Bolden agreeing, saying the Street Profits gave it one hell of an effort, and it was a good match. Respect to both sides. I would agree that both teams look great. This was very, very good, and this kind of lends some credence to the idea that, hey, tag team wrestling is good. Like far too often in WWE, you see the tag teams kind of get the short end of the stick here. And here we had two good tag matches, one for the titles, one just kind of a thrown together tag match. But this was good. It was a good start to the show here. One kind of downside here was DHS pointing out that the audio feed on Peacock was awful. I think it was like the first. It was definitely throughout the kickoff show. I think it was throughout the first match as well. And it was a little on and off, but I think by the end of the first half hour, it was solved. But I think during the kickoff show, the Spanish announced team kind of cut over. It was like mixed with Cole McAfee, so it was almost like a bilingual broadcast. And then they solved it, and then a couple minutes later, we had the French announced team cut in with the broadcast. It was like, wow, we're getting a multicultural experience here. And that made it a little hard to kind of like fully get into the show. It's like, all right, I can't even understand the commentary. It's a little wild. We got you got Spanish and then French. It's like, oh my gosh. And for me, I don't speak Spanish, so I'm like, what's going on? But it's obviously you can hear the wacky audio. Thankfully, they got resolved, but definitely, like I was saying about the main event earlier, I feel like kind of the main event, the angle there on top of this, the Peacock issues definitely will be kind of something that was remembered probably beyond the show here. So not a great look. I mean, Peacock, the move there has still been a little bumpy. I remember at Money in the Bank, they added some major issues during the men's entrances there. Man, yeah. So hopefully they straighten everything out there with Peacock there. But another wholesome comment. I love spreading wholesome content here. Mark Buckingham saying that he was sitting next to Montez Ford's mom. She was texting her son and Bianca throughout the night. Her background photo is of Montez. That's beautiful, man. Like, that's just cool, right? Like, this is why wrestling is good. All right, we can talk about things being not great. We can talk about WWE, not always doing good things, but like, this is good stuff. Thank you, Mark, for passing on a very nice and wholesome content there. That is what we like to hear. That is good. So yeah, a very good tag team match. And on top, we talked a little bit about Sasha Banks coming back. That's setting up that match there. So talk about the U.S. title match. As far as I can really tell, I may say it was my favorite match for last here. And it looks like I did, yeah. So we had Charlotte Flair facing Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's title here. And this match, I will say, we had a bunch of other really, really good matches, like the in-ring action, maybe like, Montez Ford doing flips and looking great, and Roman Reigns and Finn Balor beating the crap out of each other, and Bianca and Becky putting on a good match, and the New Day and Bobby Lashley and AJ put on a great match. But I think my favorite match of the night, in a very different way, was Charlotte Flair versus Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's title, and I'll tell you why. So I'm gonna get flack for this, and I'm ready for it. I'm okay with that. But my gosh, and I'll say as Hermit Carson, are you not entertained? This was storytelling. This was character development potentially, and I remain somehow optimistic that this will lead somewhere. I should have learned by now with what we saw with the Fiend and stuff, but hear me out. All right, so last week on Raw, we had Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss exchange promos where Charlotte basically said, all right, this whole thing with you and the makeup and the Lily stuff, it's a cry for help. And now you're coming to fight me, and I'm going to beat it out of you and bring the old Alexa Bliss back. Cool. Alexa Bliss was saying, okay, I don't need titles or I don't need any of this to really be who I am. I'm going to embrace who I am, which is what we've seen. Like, maybe this is the real Alexa Bliss. That's cool as well. So that set up this cool match tonight between two of the most powerful personalities on Raw, two of the most compelling characters on Raw, the Queen Charlotte Flair and the twisted Alexa Bliss. And I've said it pretty much every single week on the Raw show, that at least that she's been on. Alexa Bliss is great. She is underrated. Yes, the writing has been awful at many points, but she always does her very best to make the most out of whatever she's given. Throughout all of the Fiend stuff, throughout the supernatural cinematic stuff, when we had that one weird episode of Raw where she chased Shayna Baszler into a room and there's Lily in a mirror. There's a whole bunch of wacky stuff with Alexa Bliss. I will admit that firsthand. All right, that is absolutely true. But this match, it was good because Alexa Bliss was wearing her traditional gear. Admittedly, kind of a more dark design, but it was wrestling gear. It wasn't her skirt/smock or anything like that. It was wrestling gear. So I was thinking, even once she came out, I was like, all right, is this kind of a slow step toward Alexa Bliss coming back, to what we had known her as? Because I loved Alexa Bliss, the character, as we had known her as Bliss Cross Albatross when she was with Nikki Cross back then, and all that stuff. I've always been a big fan of Alexa Bliss, and I've liked this work she's been doing. But at some point, you've got to believe that she will come back to the Alexa Bliss that we had once known. So this match, the story basically was, it's Charlotte Flair. You're not going to wrestle Charlotte Flair. She controlled most of the match. Bliss got a couple near falls. In the end, and it was pretty competitive. It was a good match, but it was definitely all about the story. So in the end, Flair gets the Lily. I believe it was the Lily doll. I don't think it was the Charlie doll. And she kind of threw it at Alexa or whatever. And Alexa got distracted, and so Flair kicked her in the face. Natural selection, pin her for win. All right, Charlotte Flair still champion. I was rooting for Bliss to win here, but I will say my hope for the story here outweighs any disappointment in the fact that Bliss did not win, because after the match, Flair kicks Bliss out of the ring. She's a sore winner. Kicks her out of the ring, grabs Lily, rips Lily apart, literally rips the stuffing out of her, and clearly just destroys Lily. Lily is just gone, right? She's quote unquote dead, even though she's a doll. And I saw some people tweeting about it. If you believe that they're going to kill off Lily just before Halloween, you got another thing coming. I don't know, right? They could very easily bring Lily, like a horror movie, bring Lily back for one last hurrah. I don't know, but at least for tonight, I'm sitting here. I'm like, all right. So the Flair destroys Lily, at least in this current iteration. Maybe they'll bring her back. Maybe they'll bring her back. Maybe they won't. And then Bliss attacks her. They keep wrong. She's clearly fired up because she just saw her favorite doll ripped apart, like any kid would be, right? But and then Charlotte leaves, and Bliss kind of gets up, and she sees the literal stuffing of Lily, her prized doll in the ring, her best friend in many ways. And Bliss just like screams. She's angry. She gets in the ring, and then she cries, and then she vacillates between screaming and crying and screaming and crying. And like this very clearly felt like something happened here. I don't know what. We got any comments that Lily will rise? Sean Smith saying that. Duchka saying that, or wondering if Lily's going to come back to life since we've gotten a Sister Abigail. Maybe. And then seeing other comments here. Mark Buckingham saying he believes this will be a new metamorphosis. I like that. A new metamorphosis for Alexa, a new progression or evolution somehow. To what? That's the question, right? I don't know. But definitely this did feel like a very good development. And so often I get upset because WWE just like, it's like a treadmill. Nothing really changes. The characters don't really change or progress. Robert D. Fleece and I, every single Saturday, we're like, why isn't Bianca Belair pissed off that Becky stole her title? And then we kind of saw a little bit tonight, but here we actually had legit character development where it's like, okay, Alexa saw her doll ripped apart. She gets pissed off, and then she cries, and then like she carried the doll kind of up the ramp, and we kind of faded away on Bliss kind of like crying and kind of like seething, like this mixture of emotions. So very clearly, something is going to happen. I got to believe, like this feels like something's going to happen here, and I don't know what, but they got me hooked. All right, they got me hooked. And again, I should know better. So many times, WWE, they did stuff like this all throughout the Fiend's run, and any number of times in just various character histories here. But I've got to believe, at least optimistically, that they're going to do something. DJ wondering if we'll see Alexa turn into Lily, like Lily live action in a way, like a personification of Lily. Maybe. I hope not. Like I want to see like something. I don't know. I'm struggling to put into words. I want to see a legitimate, strong progression forward here for Alexa. I don't know what that looks like. Again, it's not my job to write the show. I sometimes like to pretend that I do like write the shows and say, okay, here's what I would do. I don't know. I think the ultimate destination perhaps maybe should be that, again, we do get back to some form of Alexa Bliss as we knew her. And I don't know quite how you get there. Again, now that at least tonight, Lily is destroyed. So I feel like this is a fork in the road where either we're going to get Bliss kind of leaning away from the Lily / Fiend-ish character, or as we got some other comments here saying that we're going to see maybe a lean more into it. We'll go even darker. And I don't know if either one's necessarily better or worse, but I think they're both options. And granted, this is definitely a storyline all along that's not for everybody. Saw Sultan saying that he lost interest when they shut down the Fiend story. I think that's fair. I mean, this was definitely a character very much linked to the Fiend. So the kind of removing him, it's like, all right, you're not really sure how to feel about it. And having that absence, definitely, I get that entirely. I think that's definitely kind of a consensus in many ways. So, and again, Lily, also to point out, we got thank you Lily chants here. The crowd was chanting for Lily, a thank you to her service for her memorable career. But again, I have to imagine that this will not be the last that we see of Lily here, at least for now. Again, right now it is September 26th, so maybe they try to revive her for October and then write her off after Halloween. John, I joke about it. We get comments about it every week on the Raw show, but every week there are comments like, "Oh, they got the Chucky show coming on USA Network. They got to do something, or at the very least, they got to keep the character around to kind of like leave that door open for at least fans to kind of like make the comparison." So I imagine we're going to see Lily again, but at least in a vacuum, just looking at tonight, it's like, all right, they destroyed Lily. And at the very least, even if they bring Lily back, the sheer action of Charlotte destroying Lily is meaningful. So I like this a lot. Like for me, like wrestling is great. All right. I love a good match as much as the next guy. For like wrestling, true wrestling, you watch AEW, you see Kenny Omega face Bryan Danielson, or WWE. They put on great matches all the time. But for me, something that really draws me as a WWE fan is that it is sports entertainment. So they do have these stories. And for me, when the stories are done well, that's what really hooks me in. So now tonight, I see this match, I see this potential for so much storytelling, for a true story line progression. I'm like, all right. Well, so like I said, I've been, a little leaning away, and I'm like, oh, I've been a little tempted by some of the good things AEW is doing. But tonight, a really good show brought me back. I was like, hey, WWE so puts on a good show. They put on a good match, a good main event, or the main event, good title matches, a good show across the board here. And again, I would say very much, by and large, we haven't really seen like we didn't really see a miss, if you will, on the whole card. Like I thought every match was good. It was a good show, and I liked it a lot. Johnny Duvich suggesting a cross promotion with Chucky showing up on Raw. I've got to imagine that's at least a possibility. It's USA Network. Chucky the show will be on USA Network. Raw. I could see it. It's WWE. Crazier things have happened. All right, we've seen some really crazy things. So I don't know, man. And for me, yeah, I'm guilty of being a fan of wacky things. All right, so Solid pointing out that I am a fan of Danhausen. I love that Danhausen. Danhausen's great, and I will not hear otherwise. Otherwise, I will tell you you're wrong. So there you have it. So yeah, I am someone that I granted, I think I drew the line at Zombies at WrestleMania Backlash. That was where I didn't love it. But by and large, I like kind of some of the more unusual things, let's say, in wrestling, where you got Lily, or I didn't love Lily, but I really liked the Alexa Bliss character work, the gimmick, and some other things as well. So I'll wrap it up by saying I think there's really a lot of potential here, and if I'm wrong, I'm gonna be sad, but I'll admit it. I'll be like, all right, I got my hopes up, and WWE let me down, but that's fine. So oh well. But sitting here tonight, I thought Bliss and Flair was a good match, fueled by that storytelling, and again, fueled by that, by that, hope for something coming next. So, I'm getting some comments about Chucky showing up in I almost said AEW. He's not showing up in AEW, no way. He showed up in WCW though. I saw Sultan pointing out that he did show up in WCW. Johnny DeWitt saying he was at Halloween Havoc. That makes perfect sense. If NXT was still a main roster show, like a relatively main roster show, that third brand, I could see. Maybe not. I think that's more of a Raw kind of thing, but gotta imagine, man, it's Raw, it's USA Network. I can see it. I can see it. I don't know, especially in this world where we're going for those ratings here, trying to pop the rating on Raw. Even if they announce Chucky showing up, my gosh, I'd be curious to see what the rating looks like there. Before I give the rating here, obviously as we wrap up the show here, Gavin Coombs asking who will be my big draft return, who will move the needle. Well, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, again, we're talking about Raw looking for better viewership numbers and stuff like that. Trying to kind of balance the scales where you have SmackDown kind of loading up with Roman. Right now, they've got Brock, they've got Becky Lynch, and all these things. And Raw's got stars. Like they've got Big E, Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, all these things. But I do think very much so that in some ways that the draft will be focused on. Again, I think balancing the scales is the best word, because I would say since SummerSlam, it's felt like that the scale has been tipped toward SmackDown. So I've got to think, Brock going over to Raw is possible, but then it's weird because the draft starts this Friday, and then Crown Jewel is not until my birthday, the 21st. So I don't know. I think that Brock Lesnar would be probably the most needle moving possibility, but now you're in the situation where it's like the timing is kind of working against them, where it's like I don't know if they would do that. Ironically, one of the most likely moves, as Herman Takar pointing out, is Drew McIntyre going over to SmackDown, because he's done absolutely everything he could do on Raw. I think that is very, very fair to say. So So I fully 100%, I was right, like 95% expect to see Drew McIntyre going to SmackDown. I think that is pretty much, again, not set in stone, but in my mind, I'm like, that's got to happen. I think Asuka, another one. I can think of so many moves from Raw to SmackDown because Asuka's been off TV. I think she could use a fresh coat of paint. Jeff Hardy, another one. People need more, and Robert and I have talked about this, John and I as well. More people need to get off of Raw and go to SmackDown than people need to get off of SmackDown and go to Raw. In some ways, I could see them kind of flipping the mid-card titles of doing like maybe Shinsuke going to Raw and Damon Priest going to SmackDown. That's not really a needle-moving kind of thing, but something they could do. They teased tonight that they would split up the New Day. I think that's I don't want to see that. I want to see the New Day kind of write out this at least early chapter of Big E winning the title and kind of rolling with that. But Corey Graves kept teasing like, oh, this will be the last time we see the New Day team up. I hope not. It really was very upsetting when they split up last year. At least they didn't split up, but they got separated in the draft, and we just got back together. So come on, keep them together. Don't break them up. I don't think anybody wants to see that again, unless you're not a fan of the New Day, and that's fine. But I just don't know. I mean, they're not going to move Roman Reigns over to Raw. They're not going to do that. That's the biggest needle moving thing they could do. And again, I can think of more people going from Raw to SmackDown to kind of shake things up. But for trying to look at it in that angle, I just don't know. I think Kevin Owens is one I could see moving back to Raw. His contract expires in January, so maybe they have him kind of wrap up on Raw temporarily. If they don't resign him, that's up in the air at this point. But it's hard, Apollo Crews, maybe. I don't know. It's tough. Maybe move Finn Balor to Raw. He just got the demon got slayed with this rope break spot here. So maybe send him to Raw here and DJ playing that as well. I think that'd be a good one. If they're not going to really involve NXT so much, and that seems to be the case, which is, I think, a missed opportunity. Finn Balor makes sense. It's also pointing out Sami Zayn, his contract. I'm not sure when that's exactly expiring. I've heard differing things, and I don't want to spread false information about it. So his contract's coming up like at some point soon. It's not in the fall. I know that much, but it's coming up. Maybe send him to Raw. I think that'd be something. But I don't know. That's the tough thing. Again, I can think of so many people that would be better off going from Raw to SmackDown. But on the other hand, it's like I don't know who'd be better off going from SmackDown to Raw. It's just tough to say, especially in the aspect of quote unquote needle movers who would really like pop ratings and stuff. So I just don't know. That's kind of one of the interesting things. Like how can they really kind of shake things up in a meaningful way? And I love the draft. It is always a very exciting time. I love covering it. I love watching it. I love seeing how it unfolds. But this is definitely an interesting situation where it's like SmackDown is so loaded, it's always this gamble of like, you don't want to like nuke one show and kind of like, overstack the other. Whereas that's happened, without the draft even being a factor. They load up SmackDown and now, they're going to need to do something kind of, again, the phrase of the day is balancing the scales here. If it's DJ pointing out that we could see Bianca Belair moving to Raw, maybe, she did just technically lose to Becky Lynch. And then you got Sasha Banks coming back, so maybe they do that. Mark Buckingham saying draft Alexa to SmackDown, keep Lily on Raw. My gosh, I hope not. Lily has her own separate entity. I don't know what that would look like, but there's a lot they could do. I think it's always an interesting time to see kind of what happens. We're getting some comments about Lacey Evans. I mean, she's still on maternity leave. She's having a baby. I think she hasn't. Yeah, I think she's going to have it soon. So she'll be out for a while, as far as I know. She announced that back in February. So I think she'll be out of commission for the next several months at least. So I don't know. It's going to be a fun time, and we're going to cover it here at WrestleZone. John and I will talk all about it when it happens. Once the draft is complete, is over next week on Raw. But we'll hear it tonight. Now it's already Monday morning to talk about WWE Raw tonight. John and I will talk about NXT on Tuesday, and I'll finish that spiel up in a minute. But to wrap up here, talking about Extreme Rules, it was a good show. I liked it a lot. It was a fun pay-per-view. The ending definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. Didn't love that, but it was a good show. And again, I'm thankful because it definitely reminded me like, hey, WWE still putting on good pay-per-views. So there is that. So for that reason alone, I got to go for like a solid 8. Like I think that may even be low. All right, I'll walk that back. I'll go for like an 8.3, and it would be higher if not for the ending to Balor and Reigns there. But yeah, good show. I liked it. DJ, not so much, giving it a 3.5. And hey, to each their own. Matthew Weiss in the ending was awful, and that's fair as well. But I liked it. You know, for me, yes, I will knock my score for the ending at least a little bit, but trying to be positive, I thought it was a very good show. It was a good match. So yeah, it was good. And Saul asked about the duck in the top right. That's the StreamYard logo. When it's just me doing these shows, we have to make a graphic for these solo shows. But in the absence of one, I throw the StreamYard logo up there to tie things together a little bit. But Saul giving it a 3 as well. I think we definitely. I'm gonna predict that some of the low scores may be due to the very questionable angle or for the lack of Extreme Rules matches there. Lower Rock giving it a 5. Kevin Coombs with a 9 out of 10 there. So he enjoyed it. So, yeah, this definitely seemed to be a mixed bag of a show. I'm not going to knock it too much because, I mean, again, questionable finish there, but I thought it was a good show. And for the fallout, John and I will talk all about Raw. Last year, a solid 7 for Hermit Dakar there. But John and I will talk all about Raw tonight here at Monday Night Raw on all of our feeds here, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter as well. And then we'll also talk about NXT on Tuesday. Otherwise, the Diamond Dudes Rampage cover all things AEW, so make sure to check that out if you're into AEW. Otherwise, I'll be back here on Monday afternoon as well with the recap of Honor, talking all things Ring of Honor. And otherwise, Robert D. Fleece and I talk about SmackDown on Saturday mornings as well. We missed the Saturday due to a scheduling conflict. We plan to be back on track here in the weeks ahead here. Start next week because we'll be talking about the draft, which will be a very fun time. So, with that in mind, it was a fun show. Not a perfect one, but a fun show. And heading into draft season, it's a fun time. So make sure to do the one thing we do here at WrestleZone, and that is to enjoy wrestling.